welcome again to another Unfiltered episode of the iPolitics podcast. We are here today with the Mayor of Barrie, Mr. Alex Nuttall. Alex, thank you for taking the time to come in and join us.
Yeah, thanks, Brent. Thanks for having me, and certainly lots to discuss today.
While you're up here in Ottawa, it's great having you in person. All too often these things are via the Zoom. I don't think you get quite the same feeling.
No, for sure. And it's nice to be back in Ottawa. You know, I served time as a member of Parliament. Haven't spent a ton of time here since, but it's nice to be back in town, especially on such a wonderful subject. So,
well, it's a great city. You should visit more often. And we're really good at getting red light after red light. So I don't know if you've noticed that.
I can't comment on the red lights, but I will comment on this, that we can do this podcast in Barrie, so maybe you guys should visit us more often. But
only if you promise less red lights.
Less red lights. But if you run them, we'll put cameras in place to give you a ticket.
CANSEC, talk to me about CANSEC. You were here for CANSEC. Was it a good trip? What's the value of coming out here?
Yeah, it's a Canadian Security Conference here in Ottawa. It was jammed this week. We're hearing figures about 25,000 people went through the door. Those are massive numbers. Every company that's looking at either being part of a procurement process or leading a procurement process in the defense industry in Canada is here. Many companies from around the world. When you think of some of the projects coming out of South Korea and Germany and other places, they're all there. Saab there. It was, as far as I could tell, is my first time, but it was a massive success. To have both the Prime Minister and the Premier come to CANSEC, I think, was a big feather in the cap of the folks and organizers, and provided a really solid backdrop for the conversation I think the entire country is having right now about sovereignty, about capability, and about production.
Now, when I was down there, I was surprised to see a few booths with Barrie businesses in it.
Yeah.
How was the representation from Barrie from the business side?
Yeah, we had 8 or 9 businesses here. All Barrie had a booth set up. They already do a ton inside of the defense sector. There was a bunch of other companies from Barrie as well and the surrounding area, which was really nice to see. When you think about the City of Barrie and our connection to the Armed Forces Base Board, and this is a major piece for us. It's in our DNA. It's culturally inside of our city to support our troops and to be part of ensuring those who are willing to make the ultimate sacrifice for us have a great place to live and a great community to be part of. So, seeing our companies here doing business, finding new clients, finding places they can create widgets, which create jobs in the City of Barrie, was great to see and experience as a mayor of municipality. When you think about the political leadership and how that works with the private sector business interests to create those jobs for folks that need them. This is the first time I've been fully confident that the actions that are being taken are going to deliver a strong number of jobs for folks in the City of Barrie. I think I've got absolute confidence in this process.
Excellent. Talk to me about the importance of being here and advocating for some of those. Are you talking businesses firsthand?
Well, look, Ottawa has such, and as I said, it's a beautiful city, but they got such an advantage, right? You've got it's the capital for our incredible country. You've got all of the head offices of so many different departments inside of the federal government here. One of those is obviously national defense. And when you have that ability to just pick up the phone and call somebody who lives down the road from you to talk about a thing, gives Ottawa a major advantage. What we're trying to do in the City of Barrie is to make sure that our story's told. We're not a capital city, but we are a great city, and we have a ton of positivity around our business culture, around our armed forces and how we support them and how they support our city, and certainly a vision for where we believe that the City of Barrie and Central Ontario need to go as a part of these investments inside of defense and defense capabilities. So CANSEC was a necessary thing for us to produce the conversations that need to be had that put us on the board. to show off why Barrie is the right place to do business. And the interesting thing is, I think coming out of there is, Barrie's on the water. It's a beautiful front yard. Our front yard's on the lake. Our backyard's on the hills. It's a wonderful place. But I think that the number one message that we heard coming out of it is that we need government to move at the speed of business. We need predictability. We need stability inside of the process. And we need our municipal, provincial, and federal governments to work together to deliver on all of these items. Without those things happening, all of the dreams and the vision that's being laid out by the federal government, by Prime Minister Carney, by Premier Ford and Minister Fedeli, they can't come into fruition. And so what we're saying in the City of Barrie is pick us, we're easy street, and we want to be part of the solution here.
Well, it's a great point. There's, as you're talking about, as the federal government is talking about doubling its defense spending, you're talking about something in the neighborhood of $60 billion in the near future.
Yeah.
That's a massive amount of money, maybe the largest injection of capital into the country, and that's including some of the industrial benefits that we've seen in our lifetime. So it makes sense to me that you'd want to be front and center on that. I have questions on how you feel like all the levels of government, are they interacting well? Are they meshing well on this? We'll talk about the provincial announcement in a minute, but it's an incredible task to get that much money out the door in a concise, directed manner. You've got procurement, you've got bunks and housing for your military men and women, equipment needs, pay raises, all these different things kind of come into one. How are you finding the governments are putting that all together?
Yeah, the issue of getting money out the door, it sounds easy to spend money, but when you're spending money in a way that is able to be audited and, all of the dollars are necessarily spent on things that are literally secure national defense products, it's not as easy as 1, 2, 3. And I think that we all need to recognize that what the federal government's started, because this is under their mandate, is a massive long-term shift in governmental policy, and I would argue not just governmental policy, but in the political fabric of our country, our cultural fabric, where we haven't really been that into spending on defense. And that's sad, because it leaves our folks who are serving in a position where they don't have everything they need all of the time. But it also, I think, then exports our sovereignty to somebody else. And we know what that looks like now. We know what happens when somebody says, okay, you're a target today.
And so I really do think that the changes that are being made on the federal level are foundational, and foundational changes don't happen overnight. You said $60 billion. I think that's over 3 years. Yeah. $88 billion over 5 years in increased spending, right? The offsets that you spoke about are going to be humongous across our country. When you think about subs, you think probably Vancouver and Halifax. Those are your two major hubs. There's going to be huge amounts of jobs created in those places just servicing whatever the decision is from the federal government on the either South Korean or German subs. But when you think about the rest of the armed services, the Air Force, Base Borden, the birthplace of the Royal Canadian Air Force, the Army capabilities that are needing to be moved forward, the drone capabilities that need to be moved forward. First, we need to get capable at these things, right? And then we got to build capacity to deliver them across our Canadian Armed Forces. And so Ontario is incredibly well positioned for this. When you think of manufacturing in Canada, there's two provinces you think of, Quebec and Ontario. Ontario's got the most employees in manufacturing in the country by far. And so what I think Premier Ford is doing is trying to take our natural talents and skills and experience and skilled trades inside of the province of Ontario and match it to the vision of the expansion of the Canadian Armed Forces, And I think that that's working well so far. When I speak to the feds, they talk about the province. When I speak to the province, they talk about the feds. That's representative of a relationship that has constant communication and I'm assuming is on the same page to go forward. What I think needs to happen next is you have that vision item and the spending from the feds. You have the capabilities in the province, but where does the action actually happen? And that's in the towns and cities across Ontario. And so Barrie's leading the way. We know we are. We're here today. But I think that what you'll see is many, many, many cities and towns across Ontario wake up and go, okay, let's jump into this program.
Are you running into a lot of other municipalities when you're at CANSEC and some of these places?
No, we saw a couple of folks from economic development offices there. I don't remember meeting another elected official there other than the provincial and federal folks. So we're way out ahead of the curve. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. I'm hoping it lands on the good side. If there's anything that I learned after our announcement today with the province, it's that industry is now saying, okay, Barrie wants us.
Yeah.
And that political fabric, cultural fabric of our country that wasn't really that into defense. Part of that is also building the tools that our soldiers need, no matter what what part of the Canadian Armed Forces. It hasn't been that easy to find places to move our defense technology forward. I think that's changing.
That's great to hear. Somebody that represented two military bases. It's great to hear the chronic underfunding is going to be taken care of. You talk about the job losses, and obviously with the manufacturing sector, with the auto sector taking a hit, Honda, all these EV announcements that we're seeing. Do you see these? I mean, certainly Premier Ford has put out there that this defense spending and the jobs coming into the defense sector could be a way to replace some of those manufacturing jobs. Do you see those as being good, stable, long-term jobs for Barrie?
Look, I see this as a 25-year thing, not as a 6-month or 1-year thing. We're going to be sprinting for the next year to ensure that Barrie's positioned to be in the right place for the province and the feds and industry to bring those jobs. But this is a generational change in terms of what's happening. I think when you look at the auto sector, the conversation is continually about, are these cars built on which side of the border between Canada and the U.S.? There's a much broader conversation happening. I think the bigger threat is actually not whether the widget is Canadian or American. And obviously, I want as much of it to be in Barrie area as possible. That's jobs. The bigger conversation is like, how are we going to compete with China? And how are we going to compete with an EV industry that is producing an automobile product for much cheaper than we are? When you get out of that conversation and say, okay, I don't know what's going to happen long term on this automotive industry. We want to keep as much as we can in Ontario. We want to do as much as we can in Ontario, but there are some fundamental economics issues that we're dealing with. When I move over to defense, the thing I like about it in terms of security is we're in control, right? The federal government is the one that's procuring the items for the armed forces. The federal government is the one that's gone and landed the new defense bank to be in Canada for NATO. Hopefully, from my point of view, I think that Toronto makes sense. It's where most of our financial, our fundamental financial markets are taking place. It's where most of our banks are headquartered as well. But when you have these things lining up, where government and finance are both swimming in the same direction, that gives some stability and some long-term, opportunity for places like Barrie that want to be in that manufacturing sector for defense. So I don't think this is a fly-by-night thing. I don't think this is a political announcement and the next day something else comes and we chase that. I think this is again, foundational change, long-term change. It's getting the funding it needs. We're getting international attention and investment because of it. Everything's aligning. It's all coming up Canada right now.
That's great to hear. Talk to me about the announcement you're at today with the province of Ontario. What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
I understand Premier Ford came in and announced that they're going to start consultations with municipalities and others based on a 4-point framework that they've outlined. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think the first step was definitely to get their framework out there on how they envisioned moving forward, and then going and getting industry and municipal government and federal government response to that. My guess is they've probably been speaking with the federal government quite thoroughly on this subject, and maybe it isn't as much about federal government feedback as it is about how are we going to take the federal government's vision and then make it a reality. So, I think it's a strong step forward in the sense that needed to happen. I'm hoping the consultation portion of this is done quickly. I share the Premier's view that we need to move at the speed of business, and we need to be able to both respond to the market, is clearly, when you look at CANSEC there, but we need to be proactive on delivering for Ontario. There are, huge opportunities in Montreal and Halifax. We know they're there. We know the same on the West Coast. There's probably days gone by where we didn't have to substantiate why Ontario. Those days are gone. I think that we have to, with all of the advanced manufacturing, advanced tech coming into manufacturing, I think we constantly have to explain why Ontario is the right place to do this business. And certainly we haven't seen this move from any other province yet that I've seen. So they are the first respondent at this point, and certainly Barrie's the first inside of Ontario to respond as well.
Isn't that a little alarming, though? From my perspective, they announced that they're going to have consultations today, which is, as you said, a great step. But it seems like the federal government has been talking about this for some time. Is it not a little surprising that other provinces aren't standing up saying, hey, pick us, what can we do, how do we get a piece of this?
Yeah, I think traditionally a lot of these decisions were just made behind closed doors, and there wasn't a public competition, if you will, for it. Where I think there's been a change in this sector recently was with the bank, the defense bank. You've got Ottawa, Toronto, Montreal, I think Edmonton maybe, are vying for that. There was a city out west, and I can't remember which one off the top of my head, but I think it's Edmonton. They're vying for that bank, and so it's become a public competition for the first initial step in this process of the expansion of defense and production in Canada in the defense sector. So it kind of makes sense that it's starting to go in that direction. I would guess that Ontario is going to be the first respondent because this is really focused on our strengths, right? Our strengths in manufacturing, our capacity in manufacturing. If there are jobs that are lost inside of the auto sector, those buildings are now available.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. So would I like it to happen faster? I think the answer is 100% I'd like it to happen faster. I'm responsible for a city of 170,000 people. The Premier is responsible for 17 million people, and the Prime Minister is responsible for 40 million people. When their decisions have a much wider girth that they need to take into consideration than I do at the municipal level. But I think today is a solid step forward. And speaking, I'll tell you this, I'm not going to go into the conversations I have, but in speaking with Minister Fedeli and with Premier Ford, they are laser focused on trying to deliver into the province of Ontario the capacity building that the Prime Minister is talking about. And Fedeli's all over the world. When I call him, he's in different places all the time, meeting with defense companies and talking about why Ontario. And we are a huge body of land. The why Ontario, you're talking Thunder Bay down to Cornwall, down to Windsor, right? What I'm hoping that we see for us selfishly going forward is why Ontario. And by the way, look at what the City of Barrie is doing. This is a prime place to go. They get it. they want to work with you.
I think one of the things I hear a lot when you're talking to experts in this space is the offsetting the manufacturing jobs is put out there a lot, but how quickly do you see this actually happening? Like, how quickly will some of these defense jobs, and I mean, it's not your specialty, but how quickly do you see this in your planning coming in to help offset some of your jobs?
We already have companies setting up in Barrie. Like, I did a tour of a facility 2 weeks ago where there's some local business owners partnering with some defense companies to bring 40,000 square feet online for munitions, right? So it's happening already.
So this is a now thing.
Yeah. I don't think that we can expect to have massive projects that are pushed by primes start out of nothing and be operational in the next 6 months. But what I do think is that there's a whole bunch of, companies that are in other sectors that can also add defense-related production into their suite of products. And that's happening already.
Talk to me about the City of Barrie. You made a big announcement.
Yeah.
How does that announcement fit into everything we're talking about here? How does it fit in with the province? What exactly do you think the biggest part of that announcement be?
Well, I think there's really 4 pieces to what we announced today. The first one was education. Lakehead University, Georgian College put another $2.5 million into Georgian College to support their relationship with Base Borden, to ensure that there's good training for the folks who are serving our military to be able to be trained at the Georgian College campus. Lakehead University is another piece. We've got an engineering school and a STEM hub that's opening in September, and so really showing that we have the skilled trades available to match the requests from these big defense companies. The second piece to it, and I think we can put the second, third, and fourth points into a direct City of Barrie item in terms of where the levers sit. The first one is to create a concierge program so that if a defense company is coming to town, they're not waiting in line with all the other companies that are looking to come into Barrie.
Yeah.
We want them to be moved to the front of the line. We want to give them that white glove service to help them get through any of the hurdles that can come up in the development process and in the site selection process. So it's really wrap our arms around every defense manufacturer, every company that's going to contribute to Canadian sovereignty, and walk them right through to the finish line, so that from the day that they enter Barrie until the day that they've got those people hired and they're now producing the widgets they're looking to produce, that it is a smooth, predictable, stable process, but it's moving at lightning speed. We want them on the highway to job creation. We don't want them sitting on a city street at a couple of red lights, as you said earlier. The other pieces are really focused on funding and supply. $50 million out to incentivize companies to choose Barrie. Our Chief Administrative Officer, Michael Prowse, will be in charge of that fund to make sure that it's being used to deliver the highest number of jobs possible for Barrie residents, and certainly to ensure that we have enough supply in the marketplace to meet the demand that we know is coming.
Wow, $50 million seems like a significant...
It's a huge number.
Yeah.
But when you think about, Brian, the idea of trying to get businesses and jobs to Barrie, and the amount of investment that takes place just in a single project to deliver. I think the smallest project we're looking at right now, it's about a $20 million project to make happen, and there may be a tiny piece that will contribute to be part of that. Some of these development programs are billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you can secure billions of dollars of investment in your community to create taxation for the municipality, to create jobs, those people then both have jobs, get to live a great life in Barrie instead of being on the highway to Toronto, but also they then pay employment taxes, right? And you package that all with the Base Borden effect that's already there. The $50 million is a lot of money. It's going to help create a lot of jobs in the City of Barrie. I think this is just the start. I want us to be so successful that we're in the same position we were last year. We're running out of industrial land.
Yeah.
You know, and if we do this right, we provide the right incentives at the right times, and we provide that predictability and stability inside of the process, like, I think we'll get there. It's going to take 5 to 10 years, but I think we'll get there.
So are you going to have enough, like you raised a good question, you're going to have enough land for all the industrial, you're going to have enough housing for this? Like, I saw a CPD report, said you guys are like,
well, we're crushing on housing.
you're so far outside the norm of what's happening right now when everybody thinks housing is like stopped in this province, and you guys are like,
Well, it's a record year right now.
Really?
Right now, first 4 months of the year, I think there was like 450 new units started. To put in perspective, there's 55 to 60,000 units inside the city of Barrie. By the end of this year, I think we'll have somewhere between 2,000 to 3,000 new units under construction. These are, in a wide variety of types of housing, like built form, but also in terms of like demographics. Everything from affordable housing, we have 700 affordable units that are going to be under construction this year, right through to, purchased housing, 2,500, 3,000 square foot home. And so we're kind of having our heyday right now. We like to say it just keeps coming up Barrie. It's the land's been brought in by the province, which we worked very hard to get done. The work's being done on waiving development charges to facilitate the apartment built, high rise and mid rise apartments. And at the same time, you have the feds and the province an agreement on HST, the feds and the province an agreement on development charges. These are, like, Barrie's so well positioned on these items that they all are massive wins for us that we can take advantage of. And I don't even think that those HST numbers and those development charge waiver numbers are being taken into consideration of what we already have underway. This is a record year in our first 4 months. It'll be a record year overall for housing. And our focus is to make sure that we no longer have a city where you sleep your head at night, but you really live somewhere else because you work in Toronto. Our goal is to have a city that is strong and capable, and you don't have to leave our city in order to enjoy the beautiful quality of life. That you can have a well-paying job right there at home.
Now, you kind of glazed over it, but you talk about the land that Minister Flack put in and Premier put into Barrie.
Yeah.
How important is that now in looking at all the things you're trying to do?
Wild. If you don't have the fundamentals right, then you can't respond, right? You can't respond to the market.
So the changes that we saw with our boundary have brought in 4,400 acres. Just under 1,000 of that is set aside today for industry. We could definitely put more aside for that in the future. It's a massive win for the city. Serviced industrial land that's ready to go. It doesn't really exist anywhere. We were down to about 200 acres. So to have another 1,000 brought in and going online, that's a huge win. I think the other thing that's important is the defense sector. The way that they grow is that you'll have somebody come in with a capability, and then you'll have companies go around it. So individual smaller hubs. Yeah, exactly. So you could have one hub with 8 companies. That hub's because of a capability that went in. The 8 companies are getting the final products and sending it, out to their clients. So it's interesting. You need to have a large amount of land set aside for what initially is probably a smaller capability investment, but then the other companies come to do assembly around it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Well, it seems like you guys are way ahead of the game. You even on the DC charges, like you were ahead of the feds in the province on that, were you not?
Yeah, I think, to give credit where credit's due, the province has put a lot of pressure on municipalities to reduce development charges. The feds have put a lot of pressure on the municipalities to reduce development charges. What we tried to do was maybe a little different than what others are doing, where instead of doing, saying, okay, well, we're going to reduce it by $100 million, which in $1 billion plan is 10%.
Yeah.
Right? What we said is, okay, we're going to reduce it by $100 million, but we're going to focus that $100 million on this type of housing to help these specific Barrie residents. And then we've had a large pickup because we've been able to provide zero development charges on our purpose-built rental over 5 stories that deliver 20% affordable housing in them. And when you think about government housing and all of that, and how I grew up in government housing and how it was all in one place, we want it dispersed around different buildings so different families from different means can integrate with other families. Kids with means, right? They understand what it's like not to have means. Kids who aren't growing up with means in their parents' household understand the opportunities that exist out in the world. And so we've had, through this development charge piece, it's really a social fabric winner for the City of Barrie. But at the end of the day, it's thousands of new units that are coming online at a time where there's no building happening. There's like 11 cranes in the sky in the City of Barrie, the most we've ever had in our history, at a time when the sector is dead. That's a huge win.
Just to wrap this up, how much does this entire conversation help you when it comes to sitting down with companies like Saab or some of these other big defense companies and say Barrie's the right place?
Do you have skilled trades, right? And are they going to have an affordable place to live? Those are the conversations with industry today.
Yeah.
Because with the changes to high tech, in terms of like advanced manufacturing, it can happen anywhere. If you have electricity, it can happen anywhere. So, it is huge, the fact that we have this much housing hitting the market. It's huge that we have Lakehead coming to town. It's huge that Georgian College has like 10,000 students inside of the City of Barrie. It is incredible for the next 25 years that all of these things are now set in play. And we've gotten over that hump with relation to the housing issue. I think that we've actually gotten through it to the other side. I think we're recovering faster than anybody else. And as we look forward, it's only going to speed up, right? And the more supply we can get into a market like Barrie, the lower the cost of housing is going to be. And so that's been our focus for the last 24 months, and we're finally seeing that those ideas and those policy changes turn into real units and real construction.
Wow. Well, as always, Mayor, it is great to see you. It is great to hear about the things you're doing, not only in Barrie, but how you're helping to push the province move forward in some of these conversations as well. So I look forward to having you back and see how successful some of these plans you're implementing are.
Sounds good, and thanks for having me once again.
Thank you, and thanks everyone for joining this episode of iPolitics, No Talking Points Unfiltered. Till next time.